Hello there, welcome to the News at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland. Tonight, the law of the land gets a major makeover. MSPs back a bill which will bring sweeping changes to our legal system, including the abolition of the controversial not proven verdict.
The motion is therefore agreed and the Victims, Witnesses and Justice Reform Scotland Bill is passed.
We'll bring you analysis on how the changes might play out in court. Also tonight, tanning claims torn apart by the Advertising Standards Watchdog. A Stirling-based sunbed firm's claims are branded irresponsible. We'll speak to the NHS doctor who made the complaint. And we'll have all the sport too with Sheila. What have you got for us tonight?
We'll have reaction to a dramatic 1500 metres final at the World Championships in Tokyo, with Scotland's Jake Whiteman clinching silver.
And later he's got the patter, but will Ross King reign supreme on the Strictly dance floor? He tells us why he's ready to slosh his way to the Glitterball trophy. Hi, I'm Laura McKeever. Welcome to the News at 7. It's been described as the biggest shake-up to Scotland's justice system in modern history. This afternoon, MSPs approved major reforms, including the removal of the not proven verdict, as well as raising the bar for a guilty verdict in criminal trials and paving the way for the creation of a special sexual offences court. Scotland has until now been the only country in the world to offer juries the option of a not proven verdict alongside guilty or not guilty, a quirk of the legal system that critics say tarnishes those standing trial and lets down those seeking decisive justice.
It's a huge step forward in the justice system. It's been a problematic verdict for a long time. Scotland's been out of step with the rest of the world. It was an accidental verdict. No one can explain what it is, so that's a problem for jurors because they don't actually have a clear explanation of what a not proven verdict is. And we've worked with a large number of bereaved family members, victims and survivors, where a not proven verdict has just left them in limbo.
Well, let's speak now to a familiar face, Dr Andrew Tickell, to explain what this Victims Bill means for the Scottish legal system. Hello to you and thank you for coming in. We've just heard one view there, but talking about not proven, not everybody agrees with it disappearing. Just talk us through that.
Yeah, so some lawyers would like to keep it. It's one of the distinctive features, if you like, of the Scottish legal system. If you ask the average person what they know about Scottish criminal justice, it's one of the things that people know about it. But it's controversial because no one else uses it and judges cannot tell juries what it means. It's quite common for jurors to ask, well, what's the difference between not proven and not guilty? And legally the answer is nothing. Right? Nothing. So there's been some discussion over the course of this bill about, is it better for people who come forward who get a not proven verdict? Do they feel as if they've been partially believed? And actually complainers, survivors, victims say it's been of no particular benefit to them. It is used disproportionately in sexual offence cases, and that's been one of the significant areas of focus in this bill.
So that brings us on to another reform, which includes a change in how guilty verdicts are decided. Just explain that change for us, what that will mean.
Yeah, so in Scotland we have juries of 15 people. In England and Wales there was 12. There was some discussion initially about shrinking Scottish juries back to 12, but we also have another distinctive feature. In England and Wales, if you are going to get convicted, you need 10 votes for guilty. But in Scotland at the moment, all you need is 8 out of 15. So 8 people could think you're guilty of sin, 7 could think you're entirely innocent, and you would be convicted. What this bill will do when it comes into force is shift that. It creates a new qualified majority. So for someone to be found guilty of any type of criminal offence, there will have to be 10 votes out of the 15 for guilty. Anything less than that, then the accused person would walk free.
And the reforms also pave the way for the creation of a special sexual offences court as well. What's the intention behind that plan?
Yeah, so there's a few different goals here. Something like 70% plus of the High Court business at the moment and the High Court of Justiciary are actually serious sexual offence cases. And increasingly what we've seen is people who've been witnesses, people who come forward and say they're victims of sexual crime, have identified a range of challenges around that, some of which focus on training and knowledge about trauma. So really at the heart of this bill was the idea that this sexual offences court would be a specialist court. And part of that specialism would be an understanding by everyone in the courtroom, whether it's the judge, whether it's the lawyers, or it's the clerks of the court, or the people you meet in the court building, that they understand about how trauma responses work and the stresses and strains that inevitably appear when someone's coming to court and speaking in front of a large group of people they do not know and being cross-examined about intimate matters like sexual offences.
The age-old question now, Andrew, what happens next? What goes on now?
Yeah, the law doesn't change right now. So much of what is in the bill will change over time. I imagine some of it will come into force relatively quickly because they're fairly straightforward changes. It might take longer, I think, to get the Sexual Offences Court in particular online and operating, because that requires quite a significant degree of changes. Basically, it'll be the Scottish Government that the Scottish Parliament today has given the power to decide, OK, we're going to bring that in January next year or July. So it'll be a phased approach, and that will have an impact, of course, on juries, because if you're sitting on a jury today and watching this programme, at the end of your case you'll still be asked, is the accused guilty, not guilty or not proven? OK,
well, thank you so much for coming in and helping us to understand it all. Good to see you, Andrew. Thanks. Now, with winter fast approaching, a charity that supports older people has expressed concern that the NHS criteria for vaccinating against flu and COVID is puzzling. The free flu vaccine will be offered to those aged 65 and over this winter, in line with last year, but COVID boosters will only be given to people over 75, as well as those who are immunosuppressed.
Can't really understand the rationale behind the fact that if you're going for a flu vaccination, you wouldn't be able to just have a COVID vaccination at the same time. That feels confusing. I also think we're really worried and concerned about what is going to happen to the NHS through the winter time.
Well, the Scottish Government says it's following the advice of UK experts, but for those between 65 and 74 who'd previously been entitled to free vaccination, they can now expect to pay around £100 for that protection if they choose to do so. And the news comes as the wider cost of living hits the headlines again, with overall inflation remaining stubbornly high at 3.8%, we learned today, almost twice the UK government's target of 2%. And the cost of some essentials, such as food, has soared by more than 5% on the same time last year. Against this backdrop, the charity Independent Age has launched a campaign with several famous Scottish faces, warning about the impact of poverty among those of pension age.
4 in 5 older people in Scotland say the state pension doesn't even cover their basic living expenses.
These people are our neighbours, our family and our friends, and are now trying to get by without enough to live on in their later years. A social injustice is happening across Scotland every single day.
Older people in our communities are not turning the heating on, skipping meals and going without, missing out on socialising, unable to stay connected with their communities.
Well, Debbie Horn is the Policy and Public Affairs Manager for Independent Age, and earlier she explained why the new campaign is necessary.
Currently there's around 160,000 pensioners in poverty in Scotland, and that's the highest that number's been in almost 20 years, and this has got to change. So our research shows that 4 in 5 older people in Scotland say the state pension doesn't even cover their basic living expenses, and almost 1 in 3 older people in Scotland are skipping meals, and less than half of older people in Scotland that are low income are confident they're going to be able to pay their energy bills over the next 12 months. So it's a really worrying situation, and we're really keen to highlight the growing issue of pensioner poverty and call for that action from government.
Now, the UK government point out that they're committed to the triple lock, so that's the guarantee to increase state pensions by whatever is the highest out of wage growth, inflation, or a set minimum of 2.5%. Is that enough for you, though?
Yep, so the triple lock was brought in recognition that pensions weren't keeping track and weren't providing an adequate income for older people. So it's really welcome that we do have the triple lock, and it does go some way to protecting people from poverty. However, we know that despite the triple lock, there are still almost 2 million older people in poverty across the UK. 160,000 of those are in Scotland. And our research shows that just 1 in 5 older people in Scotland say that their state pension is actually enough to cover their basic living costs. So there's much more the UK government can do to make sure older people on a low income receive enough social security support to lift them out of poverty. And that's why we've been calling on the UK government to establish an adequate income for all older people across the UK.
And on this campaign that you've released, as you say, very well-known names and faces in it. And one of them, James Cosmo, was the first to admit today. He acknowledged that they are not among the cohort that you're trying to help here. But were they, in your mind, the best people still to use for this campaign to draw attention to this issue?
We are hugely grateful to the actors we've worked with for using their platforms and profile to support our campaign, and they all volunteered their time to speak up about this really important issue of pensioner poverty in Scotland. And them doing so has generated coverage and raised awareness, which means we can talk to the public and politicians about pensioner poverty. And we speak every day through our helpline and advice services to older people in Scotland who are being financially squeezed, having to make those desperate choices like whether to heat their homes or eat. And we use the insight from the older people we directly support and other forms of research to campaign for change and to campaign for the government to do more to support pensioners in poverty.
OK, well, Debbie Horn of Independent Age, we're grateful for your time tonight on News at 7. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Laura.
OK, let's get our roundup now of the stories making the BBC News app in Scotland. Police say human remains found on the shore of Loch Lomond at the weekend belong to a missing man from Glasgow. 38-year-old Graham Wright was reported missing 3 weeks ago. 4 of Scotland's most high-profile gangland figures have been arrested in Dubai. Police Scotland believe all 4 are linked to crimes ranging from drug importation to a Central Belt gang feud. And as the First Minister prepares to attend a state banquet with Donald Trump at Windsor Castle, we've been exploring the pair's relationship. So you can check out more on that and other stories by scanning the QR code on the screen now. It'll take you to the BBC Scotland News app, where you can read about the family reunited with their beloved cat 9 years after he disappeared. Now, are you a Strictly fan? And how would you like to see the Slosh or the Gay Gordons on the dance floor this season? Well, entertainment reporter Ross King is one of the contestants this year, and he's hoping to bring a Scottish flair to the show, which kicks off on Saturday. Sarah McMullen sat down with him to find out how he's feeling.
I was incredibly excited, incredibly terrified, and also for me, I really do feel like I'm representing Scotland. So I don't want to let anyone down, but I'm loving it. I mean, it's just the silliest, most wonderful thing that I could ever get involved in.
So you weren't expecting it?
I wasn't expecting it at all, because if anyone's ever seen me not dance, they would definitely go, it's Strictly not dancing. So for me, it was just something. I've never done a reality show, but I've always said that if I did one, this would be the one that I'd want to do. It's been one of the most fun experiences I've had so far. I know it's going to be really, really hard. But what I want to do is, I know that I'm never going to win, but if I can be like the most improved.
How is training going then?
Training's going fairly well. I'll be honest, after day 1, I was at the physio the next day. We got really thrown into it because it was very gentle in the morning. And then in the afternoon, all the pros came in, and then they said, we're going to start teaching you the opening dance sequence for the launch show. And we were like, oh yeah, great, because this has all been nice and easy. And then suddenly it was like 5, 6, 7, 8.
And is there a particular dance that you're looking forward to doing, or that you're scared of, maybe?
I'm really looking forward to doing the slosh. I genuinely want a bit of the slosh put in for Scotland.
Please do it for us.
And then the other thing I want to put in, and weirdly enough, apparently they've never done this, is I said I would love to have some form of a ceilidh type thing. Yeah. Because obviously, at school, that was the only time you were taught dances. So it was, the Gay Gordons, the Dashing White Sergeant, the Canadian barn dance, all these, the military two-step. Yep. Which just came back to me the other day. I've done musicals, I've done pantos, but whenever I've done them, they kind of plonk me in the centre and then have everyone dance around me and make me look quite good. So now I know that that's not going to happen. I'm going to be the one trying to do their best. You don't get to choose your songs or the tunes that you dance to, but you can put forward recommendations. So already I really want to do 500 miles, because I think that's just such a great maybe I could just march. 500, Lewis Capaldi, Paolo Nutini, Wet, 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 Simple Minds, every single Scottish band that I know, I've put forward all the different songs. It's just the most wonderful experience. And to come home to Glasgow is so special, to do my profile piece here. Because this is always home.
How does it feel to be back here?
It is so wonderful. It's great. I love the banter. That is the big thing that I miss.
In LA, it's a lot of clean living, isn't it?
I mean,
do you ever miss like a greasy Glasgow chippy or something?
I, this morning, had a rolling slice.
Well, that is the diet of an athlete, isn't it?
The breakfast of champions.
Well, we hope our Strictly champion, who knows?
Oh, well, oh God, no chance of that.
Your job is to tell the who's who and the what's what of what's going on in celeb life, and now you're taking to centre stage, and not only that, but you're being judged in the process by these professional judges. So how does that feel?
It's a TV show, so I get that. I'm under no illusions whatsoever. I will do the whole thing with the biggest smile on my face, and even if the lovely Craig rips me apart, which I'm sure he will do, you know what, I'll just take it in the chin and smile.
And have you had any good advice from past contestants?
I've had lots of good advice. People like Joe McFadden, Scots, who won, was brilliant. And again, the main advice I'm getting from a lot of people is just enjoy yourself.
What are your hopes and dreams for this?
I think that I want to take away the experience of being taught by the best in the profession. I mean, they're world champions. So to be given that opportunity, again, at my point in life and at the point in my career, to be given a chance like this is just unbelievable. So hopefully I won't let anyone down. What I can say is that I will do my best. As Mum always said, that's all you can do.
Well, we wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
And we'll find out how Ross fares on the ballroom floor when Strictly returns to our screens on Saturday. Well, there is more to come here on the News at 7, including a full forecast with Christopher. First, though, let's get the sport with Sheila on what has been a gripping day, Shields, in the worlds of athletics.
Yep, Laura, it sure has. What a night in Tokyo. Jake Whiteman, this guy here, put in a remarkable performance to win silver in the men's 1500 metres final at the World Athletics Championships. But there was a bit of disappointment for the two other Scots involved. Whiteman lined up alongside compatriots Neil Gourley and reigning champion Josh Kerr with real hopes of more than one Scottish podium finish. But it wasn't to be for Kerr, who was one of the favourites for gold, when a calf injury cut him adrift from the rest of the field and eventually left him hobbling over the line in last place. Whiteman, champion in 2022, edged out in front heading into the final 200 metres, but alas, he was pipped to the line with a gap of just 0.02 of a second by Portugal's Isaac Nadar to leave him with silver, with Gourley finishing in 10th. So bittersweet for Whiteman at the very end, but after a tough couple of years with injury, a silver medal represents a huge success for the 31-year-old.
I felt like I still had something like this in me. All I knew today was I was going to run to try and win, and whether that got me the win, whether that got me second, third, however high up, I'll just be happy that I walked away with it. But when you come that close to winning it, you can't help but be a little bit, oh, what if I'd have tried a bit more, but I left everything out there. It's going to be a while to process this. I'm a big believer that you kind of get what you put in at some point, and when I kept getting kicked when I was down, I just kept believing that at some point karma was going to come back and give me a bit of luck, and I feel as though this champs, just everything went as smooth as possible, so I knew that was such a good opportunity to try and come away with a medal.
Well, a night and maybe more of celebrations ahead for Jake Whiteman, and very well deserved. Well, earlier I spoke to three-time world medalist Ailey Doyle about the race and whether Jake perhaps went under the radar, with lots of the attention on Josh Kerr.
I think to an extent, I think a lot of people, focus on Josh because, Josh obviously is the current, or was the current world champion, and, had a really good year last year as well. But I think anybody that's kind of in the athletics world and bubble, you never would discount Jake, and, he's been slowly plugging away. He's had a really sort of difficult, few years now since he won the world championships, just with injuries, just real bad luck, illnesses at the wrong time. And, and you always kind of thought if he could just put together some good solid races and get some good training behind him, he could still go on and do something special. And I think when we watched the heats, then the semi-finals, I definitely looked at Jake in a different way and thought, I think he can go and do something special as well. So yeah, I think, you know, I was kind of hoping there might be two of them on the podium, but you can't be too greedy. And yeah, just delighted for Jake.
He's such a popular character, isn't he?
Yeah, is you know, just quite a quiet, sort of unassuming sort of guy, and just goes on and works hard, trains hard, and like I say, it's just, I think we've all been, you know, when he sort of threw himself across the line to win that World Championships back in 2022, you know, you just thought, great, you know, he's going to go on and do even more things from here on in. And then I think just having those injuries and like say illnesses at bad times, you know, everybody was just hoping, you know, because he is such a lovely guy and, you know, the team all have a huge amount of respect for him, you were just hoping that he would get back to where he should be. And the fact that he's back on a podium is definitely where he belongs.
It's a real golden generation, isn't it, for middle distance running for Scottish athletes? I mean, how big an achievement is it to have got 2 world champions and a silver medalist in the past few years?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. And the fact that, I mean, it was like, you know, nothing between that first and second. So, you know, potentially, you know, Jake was so close to becoming a world champion again, and to, you know, to just have, you know, 2 world championships, one after the other is really, you know, to have 2 world champions is very rare, but to have them in consecutive championships, you know, just to be in that, you know, the same generation, the same era, and not just that, to have Neil there as well, you know, 3 Scottish guys within that World Championships final, you know, was just, it's an incredible accomplishment. And I think we maybe don't appreciate it at the time because we are in this sort of golden generation just now, particularly in middle distance and endurance events. And, you know, we've been lucky, you know, obviously from a Scottish perspective, to have people like Laura Muir who have gone on to win global medals, Olympic medals, you know, and then obviously, you know, throughout the whole UK with people like Keely Hodgkinson as well, who's gone on to become Olympic champion. We might not appreciate it as much as now, but I think definitely when we, you know, sort of 10, 20 years down the line, we'll look back and say this was a really sort of significant moment within middle distance running within the UK, but obviously in particular in Scotland.
Ailey Doyle speaking to me earlier. Well, you can read more on that eventful night in Tokyo, and you can follow Hibernian and Glasgow City in Women's Champions League action tonight, all on the BBC Sport Scotland website. And you can also watch Hibernian against Inter Milan on BBC Alba tonight.
Brilliant. I think
and more athletics.
We're still recovering, though, from this afternoon's athletics. I know, we were all glued to the TV and the ups and downs, isn't it, of sport?
Agony and ecstasy. That's what it is.
Always. Sheila, thank you. And we're going to return now to the cost of living. I imagine you've noticed, we've all noticed, the price of our food shop just seems to be going up and up. Well, the official figures bear that out because, as we mentioned earlier, food inflation and the pace at which prices are increasing has risen for a 5th month in a row, despite the overall rate of inflation staying at 3.8%. Suzanne Allen has been gauging reaction of shoppers in Glasgow.
When most of us hit the shops, we're mindful of what we're spending. Today's figures were not as high as some expected, but they're a long way off the 2% Bank of England target.
Inflation is prices going up, and the overall figure has stayed the same as last month. But if you're feeling it in your weekly shop, that's not surprising, because food price inflation has gone up 5.1%.
Items like cereal and pasta fell, but everyday essentials have seen some big price rises in the past year. The price of butter has gone up nearly 19%, milk 12.6%, and beef nearly 25%. Shoppers here in Glasgow are feeling it.
I don't really buy a lot of meat at all. If possible, maybe chicken, more fish, but again, that's extortionate as well.
They're making stuff smaller and adding more money onto the price.
Like, food shop used to cost me, like, when I started uni a couple of years ago, about like between 15 and 20 quid, and now I'm spending easily 30, 35.
I feel like you're coming out having spent a lot more now.
Another factor is the price of food production. Costs for farmers have shot up.
So whether that is feed prices, which will also continue to rise with the drought impacting feed supply in the UK, as well as things like national insurance has gone up enormously as well, which all have to be passed on to the consumers because farming already has a very tight margin.
Economists say food bills have been rising because supermarkets are passing on government increases in the minimum wage and national insurance contributions. But Chancellor Rachel Reeves says she's determined to bring costs down. Suzanne Allen, reporting Scotland.
OK, it is time to take a look at the weather. I'm not really sure I want to do this, Christopher, having gone out for a coffee earlier under a huge umbrella and still coming back.
It was a bit miserable, wasn't it?
It really was. Yeah. And this kind of bears out. There's nothing bright behind you.
No.
Really.
But there is something bright in the forecast.
Oh, good. OK. Yes. All right. You've got my attention now.
Let's take a look at some of the pictures, though, because, as ever, despite the rather leaden skies at times, our weather watchers delivered. A lovely picture there from the coastline in Fife, and the Isle of Skye looking dramatic as ever, despite those rather grey clouds looming overhead. And there was a bit of brightness coming through towards the end of the day as well. But let me show you what's going on with the bigger picture, because you can see actually we've had low pressure with us, and it is sticking with us through the course of this evening and overnight. That means quite windy, and then a tangle of weather fronts bringing some outbreaks of rain. But notice the southwesterly winds. That'll introduce some pretty mild air actually at times. More on that in a second. First thing tomorrow, it's a largely dry and for many bright start, but it will be blustery from the southwest. Temperatures around about 11 or 12 Celsius. You'll notice we've still got some outbreaks of rain across the Highlands and Islands, and actually very windy around the north and northwest coast. Gale to severe gale force winds here, and those will transfer towards Orkney and Shetland as we head through the course of the day. So as we go through Thursday, we hold on to that windy spell in the far north with showery rain, and then this outbreaks of rain moving in towards the south. It's a waving with weather front, so it's sort of wiggling around. It's gives us a few headaches actually. But those southwesterly winds introducing some very mild air. So tomorrow night, temperatures holding into the mid-teens, certainly across parts of central and southern Scotland. That takes us through to Friday, and you can see we've got weather fronts trying to work their way. And there's the waving weather front, the one that wiggles, if you like, and it's going to give us a few issues with the northward extent of the rain in the south, so perhaps in towards the central belt. Further north, showery rain, not as windy on Friday. In between those two areas of rain, something drier and brighter, with temperatures up to the high teens across parts of Aberdeenshire. Not too bad at all, actually, if you get that. And then to the weekend, we've got low pressure across England and Wales, high pressure towards the west, so a northerly wind, never a warm direction, and it will be feeling a good bit cooler through Saturday and Sunday. Here is Saturday. There's our troublesome front. This weather model, the European model, wants to hold it across the north of England. It could come further north. But generally across the north of Scotland, it's dry, but a chilly north wind setting in there. Similar picture really on Sunday, pretty wet through England and Wales. Here in Scotland, it's a cold northerly with some showers. Those showers could be wintry over the mountain tops, but over the mountain tops. So this is the outlook. You can see tomorrow it doesn't look too bad at all. Notice the temperature drop off, though, from the weekend onwards, and it will be cooler by day and by night as well. And let me just show you a super extended outlook, actually, because from Monday next week onwards, fingers crossed, high pressure moves in off the Atlantic, and that means some dry weather with some sunshine, but it will be cool by night. That's the forecast for now.
Waving, wiggly, wintry.
We've got it all.
All of it tonight. Thanks, Chris. And thank you so much. We will see you tomorrow. Sarah McMullen will be here with you at 7 o'clock. But from all of us here, good night. Bye-bye.